What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to analyze the tape of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line because they had a really good day against a pretty good defensive line of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to go through multiple snaps on tape today and just really analyze what these guys were able to do up front because there are a lot of really good moments. I'm excited for this one. Let's just get right into the tape. Alrighty guys, let's go ahead and get right into it with this 20-yard touchdown pass by Jalen Hurts to Saquon Barkley. Just a phenomenal pass where only his running back could catch the ball. A really good route, really good pass, but a really good job by the offensive lineman. You know, one of the things we got to talk about with the Eagles is they have a really good group of offensive linemen up front. And what happens when you have a great offensive line is you can essentially five-man pass protect without having to chip, without having to keep your tight ends and running backs in. And you're able to keep the quarterback clean as well. Now, I want you guys to think about something that happens within this play. So the quarterback's going to snap the football here, and as soon as he snaps the football, you're going to have a tight end running a route. You're going to have these wide receivers running routes as well. You got a guy coming out the backfield. And you got Saquon Barkley that's going to end up running a route as well. So you're going to have five guys running routes, and you're going to have a true five-man protection. Again, this is not typically happening in the NFL, especially with teams that struggle on the offensive line. You know, there are teams that have had success in the past seasons, and they're not having as much success this year. And a big part of that is because their offensive line's not very good. A great example of that is the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. These teams are struggling because their offensive line is ultimately struggling. But you see the Philadelphia Eagles oftentimes being able to do this. You know, Mekhi Becton had a phenomenal game for the Eagles yesterday. I watched every single one of his snaps, and truth be told, this is one of the best games that I had seen from an offensive lineman this season. But more than that, you know, Lane Johnson, still one of the best tackles in all of football. Landon Dickerson, all-pro caliber player. Cam Jurgens is coming together. Johnson did struggle over at left tackle a little bit. He gave a couple of sacks. We'll get into some of those snaps a little bit later on. But first, I want to kind of analyze Becton. I want to kind of really focus in on some of the dominant reps that this guy had. So this one here goes for 7 yards. And one of the reasons why he goes for 7 yards is because of that block right there by the right guard. The right guard's going to do a really good job being able to make contact with the one technique here. But look at him fork this guy over to the left here with that right hand. Look at that. Look at that movement that he's generating. That's a really good job right there to be able to move a nose tackle from the right side of this hash mark and essentially move him like 5-6 yards to the left. And that opens up a nice gap for the running back where he's able to pick up 8 yards. You got another one here. Watch the down block on the nose tackle and watch the movement generated by Mekhi Becton. Just a really good job by a really good offensive lineman. Becton obviously just wasn't able to be healthy with the Jets, but when he was healthy, he was a really good offensive lineman. Becton has all-pro upside as a guard, and I think with a guy like Jeff Stoutland, obviously coaching a guy like Becton, you're going to be able to have success. You're going to be able to do things that are different, right? Because of the fact that Stoutland knows what he's doing, and he knows where guys should generally play, right? Here's another really nice rep where you're going to get a double team here by the right guard, right tackle. Becton's going to get the right shoulder into the defensive tackle. He's going to stand him up. And Lane Johnson's going to clear it out. And look at the movement that they're generating. This guy here has one responsibility, and that's to hold the gap. It's to not get pushed and not get tossed, though he kind of does out of here. And that's just a really good job. Of course, Jalen Hurts keeps the ball. He still picks up a nice 6 yards on this one. But you guys see that lane kind of developing on this one. And this is what Becton did pretty much this entire game. He was moving people. He was throwing people to the side. He was clearing lanes. Now you get another one here. This one, both Cam Jurgens and Becton kind of worked together on this one. It's just smart football though. You know, you get Becton to really hold this guy up. He knows the double team's going to come with Jurgens. Cam Jurgens is going to push this guy out of that gap. And again, it's just that movement that these guys are able to kind of create. And this one ends up popping for 21 yards. And this play does not work without those two blocks right there. And of course, to me, when you look at a guy like Becton, you look at the upside this guy has. I really think the Philadelphia Eagles did a really good job with bringing this guy in. He's absolutely physical. He moves people, right? He's a people mover. You see on this one is, again, just straight up moving people. Just a really good job. I also want to talk a little bit about Lane Johnson. You know, you see the block here by Johnson where he's able to not only move the defensive tackle, but he climbs up to Devin Lloyd, the inside linebacker. And he sets up perfectly to the right side of this linebacker. But more than that, this guy had a really good game in pass pro, and I think it's something we have to talk about because Lane Johnson is still one of the best pass blocking tackles in the NFL. In yesterday's game, Lane Johnson absolutely dominated in pass pro specifically. He gave up no sacks, no quarterback hits, and was just really good, fluid, and this is kind of what we expected out of Lane Johnson this season. You know, last year I felt like Lane Johnson was really not healthy because of the fact that not only did he miss some games, but he just didn't look good at times, right? He wasn't as fluid in the movement, but I feel like this season the guy's been very fluid. You see plays like this where he takes the flight directly toward this defensive lineman. Essentially, he's going to change his pass set. He's going to go directly at the defensive end. You see Becton doing the same thing as well. Both guys are essentially going to jump set towards these guys. They're going to close the distance. They're going to make sure neither of these two guys can really get into their pass set. And with Johnson, not only does he make contact, but he just stays right in front of it. And he does a really good job being able to shut this guy down. But this play is not unique. Johnson had so many good quality wins yesterday, and he was just straight up shutting whoever it was he was going up against. And one of the guys he went up against was former #1 overall pick Travon Walker. You see Walker lined up right here, and just look at the movement by Johnson. Look at him getting on top of Walker, get the hands to the inside, and just straight up shut it down. Walker has looked a lot better this season. He's had a lot of success. And you see Johnson just straight up shutting it down. Hands land perfectly, the footwork, everything about it is just beautiful. To me, this is what makes Lane Johnson such a great football player. It does not matter who that guy is over there to that side. He just finds ways to have success. Now, I mentioned 5-man pass protection earlier on in this video. This one's not a 5-man pass protection, and one of the reasons why the Philadelphia Eagles chose to keep in a tight end and potentially a running back to chip was because the left tackle did struggle a little bit. I think up to this point, he's already given up a sack and a couple of hits and pressures, but you're essentially going to try to help out the left tackle as much as you can. And just a really, really, really nice move right here by Saquon Barkley. It's always interesting to me because we know that there's guys out there that come out of the NFL draft that are very talented, but you just don't see it click until they get with the team that can really make it happen. And of course, the Philadelphia Eagles are definitely one of those teams. You got another really nice rep here by Johnson. He's going to make sure that the quarterback doesn't end up going down. And he's going to let the quarterback run through this and actually pick up the first down. So really, really good job. It's a heads-up play by Lane Johnson. You got to recognize there's multiple threats of guys that could potentially come, right? So the offensive line is going to have to process this and pick up who's coming and who's not. If you keep an eye here on Lane Johnson, watch him do a really good job picking up the first guy, making sure the right guard's able to overtake that. And then really, really late in this, he's able to come back around to number 56. Now, 56 is lined up initially over the center. When number 56 slants towards the right, remember, all these guys got to be able to pass this off. You got to make sure the guy next to you is able to properly pick this guy up before you get off of it. And on this one, he makes sure Becton's in a good spot before releasing, before getting up to number 56 here. And he gets just enough where 56 can't get to the quarterback. 3rd and 7, you pick up the first down. So that's a really, really good job right there by Lane Johnson. Generally speaking, Travon Walker did absolutely nothing against Lane Johnson. He pretty much shut it all down. But it wasn't just Walker, right? They had a couple other guys kind of switch sides and go up against Johnson, and he basically shut it all down. Even when Josh Allen ended up on that side, really didn't do much against Johnson. Johnson pretty much stayed in front of it. He was able to pretty much shut it down. And he deserves so much credit for how he's played this season. You know, I love Penei Sewell. I think Penei Sewell is the best tackle in the NFL. The only guy that I think is comparable to Penei Sewell at this point is Lane Johnson. And honestly, Johnson had obviously a Hall of Fame career. His play is incredible, man. I'm telling you guys right now, Lane Johnson still has it, and he's still dominating at the highest level. Last year, as I mentioned, I felt like he had some losing snaps, but this year, the guy's right back on top of it, right? He's right back on top of it, having success, being able to shut down whoever he's going up against. But on the other end, we do have left tackle Fred Johnson in, and Johnson has been struggling from what I've seen, right? He's getting a lot of the chip help, and he still ends up struggling.
Now, before we go forward, I want to just take a second to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this channel, because this content would not be possible without Underdog. If you guys have never utilized Underdog before, trust me, man, you guys are missing out. I don't do traditional fantasy sports that often. I did do one league this year, but generally speaking, I'm not really doing it anymore. And that's mostly because of Underdog. Underdog has this game that I really, really enjoy. It's called Pick'em. Essentially, you're going to go out there and just make picks that you think are going to be right. They'll have pretty much every pick you can think of for every player, and they have multiple categories as well. So an example would be, you know, I think Aiden O'Connell is going to throw for 125 yards. And you're essentially just going to pick higher on that, right? I think he'll have more than 125 yards. You might say, hey, Dak Prescott's going to have at least 2 touchdowns. And pick higher on that. You might say Caleb Williams is going to have a rushing touchdown. And some of those stats also give you multipliers, right? So usually for quarterbacks rushing and in, right? That's something most quarterbacks aren't doing every single week. You'll get like a 4x multiplier on that. So depending on the multiplier, depending on how many picks, you can turn $5 into $400, $1,000, right? Whatever it ends up being. Obviously, it depends on the multiplier, but Underdog to me is one of those places that I pretty much do every single week at this point. Very fun. It makes like watching the Jets and the Dolphins without Tua makes them interesting, right? So check out Underdog. If you guys have never used them before, it is the best place. Trust me when I say that. Go to underdogfantasy.com, use my promo code that you guys see on the screen, or use the app. I recommend the app. So let's get right back into the content.
He's getting a lot of the chip help, and he still ends up struggling. Now, he does have some reps where he is able to win, but these are great examples of reps where you got to be able to win. He's going to get the chip here on Josh Allen, and after he gets the chip by the tight end, you're in a spot where you have to be able to win right here. You have to be able to shut that down, right? This makes no sense right here for him not to be able to get in front of this guy. That too, if your guy is essentially backed up as much as he is, and this guy's taking this outside pass rush, get on top of him. Help the left guard out here, right? So Johnson just has to do a much better job on this play. Now I wanted to show you guys a couple more of these losing plays that this guy did have. Here's another one where he's going to end up losing to, once again, it's Josh Allen's. You just got to do a better job being able to stick to it. The quarterback here does not get the ball out, and he doesn't throw it within the structure of the play, but generally speaking, that's okay because that's where Jalen Hurts makes his magic. If the offensive coordinator does not design a good enough play where the guy's open or the defense just runs a perfect defensive play, usually Jalen Hurts is going to make a play happen, but you got to be able to protect him. On this one here, you're going to see the left tackle is going to end up getting beat. This one's not as bad. I think there are a couple others that were much worse, where he ends up getting bailed out because Jalen Hurts is able to move. Here's one where you're going to see Allen does end up getting a little bit of pressure, but you also see the quarterback's going to end up running away. Right? He's going to end up getting beat to the inside here, but Hurts does a good job just kind of getting out of there. So although that's a good one right there, you have another one on 3rd and 7, where once again he's going to get pushed back right into the quarterback. On this one is Trayvon Walker, who's going to long arm him. You are going to end up scoring, but it does come back because of an offensive pass interference. Regardless of that, you still are getting pressure. You're still losing the snap here, right? Hurts obviously just does a great job climbing and getting the ball out. But you got to be able to hold these plays down and not lose on these snaps. Here's another one. This one's going to be 2nd and 12. And this one's going to end up being a hold call. Not that the play was a touchdown, but you're looking at a 2nd and 12, and essentially you're going to get backed up on this one, right? So you got to do a better job if you're the left tackle. You're in a good spot. Drop the hands, right? Keep moving the feet, drop the hands, and just continue to develop, right? That's all Johnson can do at this point. I do think the Philadelphia Eagles are still in a really, really good spot, regardless of how you look at it. And I want to go ahead and just wrap this video up with a couple more run plays, and I want to just kind of look at some of the different offensive linemen. On this one here, Lane Johnson does a really, really good job, and he deserves so much credit for this 12-yard run because of the fact that not only is he going to double team on this one, he's going to make sure that Mekhi Becton has his guy, he's going to make sure Cam Jurgens has his guy, and when the linebacker here ends up going towards the right, look at Lane Johnson flip the hips perfectly. It does not get better than that. You're not going to have a better lane develop, and the fact that Saquon Barkley also trusts that his offensive linemen are going to be able to make sure that the lane develops. He trusts that his offensive guys will be able to get to their blocks and that something's going to develop as he kind of approaches. And on this one here, you pick up 12 yards because of the guys up front. Here's another one. You're going to get a 3rd and 17 run by Saquon Barkley, and this one's going to go for a 19-yard touchdown. And although this is a great play by Saquon Barkley to be able to kind of see it and just hit it, you also get some really good blocks up front as well. You got to give credit here to the center who's going to be able to climb up to number 23, the inside linebacker. And Jurgens gets just enough of him. All right, 23 has to get his hands to Jurgens to get off the block. You also see the wide receivers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, doing a really good job to the right side of your screen up here. And then just like that, you see Saquon Barkley take it 19 yards for a touchdown. Here's another one. If you guys keep an eye on the left guard here, Landon Dickerson's going to do a really good job with the double team, the movement, and you're going to see Saquon Barkley pick up 10 yards just like that. It's very quick, it's very effective, and it just works, right? Have the offensive linemen here are able to run the different concepts. You can run duo, you can run zone, and it works because the guys up front know how to work well with one another, right? They're able to do things that you essentially want these guys to be able to do. You're going to get Barkley to pick up 9 yards on this one. This is going to be a inverted read option, but if the quarterback kept this ball, right, look at the lane developing on the inside. Of course, he handed the football off, but if he keeps this ball, Look at the lane that's going to ultimately develop. Look at that lane right there to the inside. To me, if the quarterback keeps this, you're picking up a lot of yards. Now, it's not a bad idea to obviously hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley. This one's going to pick up 9 yards. And we've already seen this play here earlier, but I didn't point it out at that time. You got to give credit here to the left guard, left tackle as well. Because Landon Dickerson's going to reach the one technique, and he's going to hold the block long enough that Saquon Barkley's able to slip right past that. That's a good job right there to hold the block. Even Fred Johnson, although he had some losing snaps, does a pretty good job climbing up to the inside linebacker. Here, he's going to be able to get him just enough where Barkley's able to kind of slip through that, and he's going to pick up 21 yards on this one. All right, so again, just a really, really good job by the guys up front. You got to give credit to every single one of those guys, because the amount of success that Saquon Barkley's having right now, he wouldn't have that without the guys up front, right? The guys up front are doing a really good job opening up lanes. And I would make the argument right now, there's not a better running team than the Philadelphia Eagles. Right? The Eagles are the best running team in the NFL right now. And yes, Saquon Barkley is an absolute superstar running back, but so are the guys up front. Give credit where credit is due. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really wanted to just point out a couple of guys. Really want to just talk about some of the different guys up front. Overall, I think the Eagles did a really good job against the Jags. I think the Eagles should have probably blown this team out, truth be told. I watched the game live, and I felt like the Eagles just had like 2 or 3 mental mistakes that allowed the Jags to kind of stay within the game. But of course, Nakobe Dean ends up putting the game away. Really nice play by the young linebacker. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing. We are covering the Eagles on this channel, and we will be checking in on some of the guys on the other side of the football. And we're definitely going to be checking in on Nolan Smith here soon. So thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.